Our data from the CDC today suggests, that vaccinated people do not carry the virus, don't get sick, and that it's not just in the clinical trials, but it's also in real-world data.
Hey, what's going on, folks? We have a great show for you today. So I saw this commercial going viral on social media, and at first I thought maybe it wasn't real. But then I saw Tucker Carlson and a Johns Hopkins doctor weigh in on it, so I guess it is real. I don't know, I was kind of hoping it wasn't.
I've been into fashion since I can remember. But one day I had a stomachache so bad I didn't want to do anything. The team at New York Presbyterian said it was actually my heart. It was severely swollen. Something called myocarditis. But doctors gave me medicines and used machines to control my heartbeat. They saved me. So now I can become the next great fashion designer.
Interesting stuff. We'll talk about it. Then I wanted to talk about CDC Director Rochelle Walensky's tweet. She said, "Today I received my update COVID-19 vaccine. Laboratory data suggest these updated vaccines provide increased protection against currently circulating variants. If you received your last COVID-19 vaccine more than 2 months ago, I encourage you to join me and get your updated vaccine now." Sweet. When she says laboratory data suggest, it reminds me of the last time I saw her talking about CDC data suggesting stuff.
Our data from the CDC today suggests, that vaccinated people do not carry the virus, don't get sick, and that it's not just in the clinical trials, but it's also in real-world data.
All good. I'm sure I should trust her this time. And nothing creeps me out more than when Mike Pompeo, Hillary Clinton, Justin Trudeau, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and most right-wing media agree on something. I wish it meant that was good, but usually that's not the case. We're going to talk about the protests in Iran and just a few questions I have about that. It's going to be a great show, folks. We're going live now.
The Dream Rare Podcast, welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles. It's the Dream Rare Podcast, welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles. Yeah.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Dream Rare Podcast, and I want to let you know that fact-checking the fact-checker video that I've been working on, it will be out Monday morning. I've been working a long time on it, and I'm excited to release that. So I have a few topics I want to cover today. The last one is I want to talk about the Iran protests. Everybody supporting them, Mike Pompeo, Hillary Clinton, left-wing, right-wing, every time everybody comes together and they all agree, I'm always a little skeptical. So I'm going to tell you what I think about that. It might be unpopular, but I don't really care. First story is obviously that New York Presbyterian Hospital commercial that was talking about myocarditis in kids and how that hospital is working to help kids with myocarditis and, youngins. And I thought at first, obviously in this day and age, anything is true, but I was like, is that real? Are they really doing this? And then Tucker Carlson covered it yesterday with a Johns Hopkins, either professor or doctor, to really have a discussion about it. And they were talking about vaccination, which is hard to talk about on social media because Facebook, YouTube, Google, everybody is rigged to pretty much act like nothing is happening, right? And I don't know why there's an increase. This is up to the scientists and experts. They can figure this out. But I do want to show you this real quick just to, this is the CDC website. It does talk about myocarditis and pericarditis. And you can see there, maybe you can, I'll just read it. It says myocarditis and pericarditis have been rarely been reported. When reported, the cases have been especially been in adolescents and young adult males within several days after COVID. mRNA vaccination, Pfizer, BioNTech, and Moderna. So they have admitted that it is a side effect to the vaccine, although they're obviously saying it's super, super rare. Understood, but when you give something to millions upon tens of millions upon hundreds of millions of people, the number of rare cases is going to increase. It's basically just a math equation. So I'm not really going to say much about it. It's just interesting that I've personally never seen them talk about myocarditis in kids, and now you have hospitals trying to normalize it as social media is covering up anybody having questions about it. So I'm going to just say this before I move on to the second story or maybe the third story of the day. I'm not going to make any claims that I can't prove, but what I do know is under Operation Warp Speed, the emergency declared by Alex Azar in 2020 and then extended multiple times probably by people in Biden's administration. You did have this situation where the vaccine manufacturers under the PrEP Act, they're using that for this one, they have no liability for side effects, injuries, or anything worse from their products. So, you know, this is just a nefarious scheme from the beginning, whether you're mandating the product or not. You know, people tend to get lost in that and say, well, Anomaly, he didn't mandate it. And it's like, yeah, mandating is terrible. I don't believe in medical mandates at all. However, what you have to understand is opioids were never mandated, but that doesn't make the opioid crisis good. Opioids have devastated millions of families, millions of lives, and there was a lot of lying involved with big pharma executives with opioids. Just because they didn't mandate it doesn't mean that wasn't an evil scheme, right? Fentanyl's coming across the border. Mexican cartels aren't mandating fentanyl. China's not mandating fentanyl, and street gangs aren't mandating fentanyl, but fentanyl's killing millions of our, youth in America. So it doesn't mean that the fentanyl crisis isn't evil just because it's not mandated. And obviously the vaccine was mandated. It makes it more evil. But what I'm trying to get people to understand is saying, well, the Republicans aren't mandating it and the Democrats are mandating it. That's only one side of the story. That's one of the many reasons I'm going to vote all Republican in November. I believe Democrats are the greater two evils. They're going to mandate longer, lock down longer, treat people like animals longer, and I don't agree with it. But that doesn't mean that Republicans are just innocent in this scheme. They gave tens of billions of dollars to big pharma. They put a pharmacy lobbyist at the head of HHS and let them run rampant with our government. And then they gave them this liability shield. So it's almost like as the left slaps you in the face, the right wing is like holding their other hand and, it's like their ring coach, but they always play this game of like, oh, we didn't think the left is going to do that. It's like you're working with them. At this point, the Republican Party, although, there are some benefits to it, they might as well just be controlled opposition because as the left is slapping you, people like Ted Cruz get applauded around the country and they act like they're defending you, but really they're just feeding you to the wolves and then acting shocked, So it's like, I understand why people are fed up with both parties because it's true, but long story short, a lot of this liability shield and stuff, it's just a nefarious system, in my opinion, when you have the government with Moderna. The NIH is trying to basically beef with Moderna to take patent, there's lawsuits involved. I don't know who won. I think the government, where they want to own part of the patent. If they're not interested in money and finances, why are they so interested in controlling the patent? I don't know. I mean, you can ask them. And then you have Moderna beefing with Pfizer, saying that they stole their technology from years ago with the new COVID vaccine. So they're all suing each other, right? They're all involved. The government's involved with big pharma. They own part of the patents, or they're trying to own part of the patents. Then you have the government rolling out this scheme where they give tens of billions of dollars to big pharma, call it Operation Warp Speed, and get Donald Trump to pretend it's this amazing thing where he's rushing, the FDA to get it out even faster. Then when it comes out, you have the Trump administration buying hundreds of millions of doses. He has said, oh, well, this was the greatest gamble. I bought the doses before I even knew if they worked or not. And I don't think that's a good gamble. I think once, the government spends billions of dollars on something, they're going to jam it down your throat, whether it works as good as they think or not. I don't think it's this great gamble Donald Trump made. I think he sold out our country to big pharma, gave them the money, bought the doses, and from then he dug our grave. Then you get the Biden administration. They're buying hundreds of millions of doses, right? So you have a product that the government itself, with the Moderna vaccine, they're owning part of the patent. They're giving money to multiple pharma industries. They're buying hundreds of millions of the doses. They're jamming it down your throat. The left is mandating it. The right's not. And then big pharma has no liability for side effects or injuries. That's a fact. And they could fact check it. Washington Post fact checks it. They tried to fact check Dr. Robert Malone talking about it. And in the article, they basically admitted like the PrEP Act is real. I don't know what you guys are trying to, lie about. It's like, oh, well, they have some liability, but not all liability. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. Can you sue vaccine manufacturers? Can you sue Pfizer, Moderna? Can you sue the NIH? Can you sue the government? Can you sue your employers? If something happens? It's not very easy thanks to the PrEP Act. It's almost virtually impossible at this point. So it's just such a nefarious scheme where you have the government owning part of the patent, the government buying the product, the government funding the product with socialist taxpayer money. Both parties are in on it, though the Republicans throw up their hands and are the lesser of two evils. And then as these things are rolling out at warp speed, you're not allowed to question the safety of the products on Facebook, YouTube, or Google, because big pharma and big tech are working together to basically quash all criticism of their product, knowing damn well you have no legal route to take because they're shielded from liability. The whole scheme is evil, mandate or not. This is, in my opinion, opioids have killed millions of people. I'm not saying all opioids are bad, but the opioid industry and these companies and Purdue Pharmaceuticals, look into it. It's been a disaster. Fentanyl is a disaster. It's like the silent killer in our country. It's killing a bunch of people's kids every day, and nobody seems to care about it except for Republicans. But up there with all of these scandals, this is my personal opinion before I move on, and I'm not just talking about the mandates. The mandates are evil. Democrats are evil. But I would say Trump is complicit in one of the most, if not the most evil pharmacy scheme from front to back, although he didn't go the distance of mandates. Neither do they don't mandate fentanyl and opioids. So that doesn't make this scheme not evil and corrupt. When it's all said and done, my personal opinion, how they rolled it out, how they rushed it, how they bragged about it, how they bought it, how they owned the patents, how they lied about it, how they covered up vaccine injuries, and how they protected themselves from liability. I believe this is the most evil and corrupt big pharma scheme in modern history. And I don't think you separate the lockdowns from, oh, well, he had to do it to do that. No, it's all, to me, it's all part of the same thing. It's like, oh, everybody's scared. You think there wasn't going to be a vaccine when they locked down in March? Of course, there's a problem. Everybody's freaking out. Everybody's scared. Everybody's in the house. You think big pharma and big government's not going to jump all over this? We got, I would say, just absolutely swallowed alive by big government and big pharma. And just like with other crises of the past, if you don't get to the bottom of this one, you're just going to keep going on loop. The food and drug industry is corrupt. The things that they allow in this country are toxic to our bodies. They ban like organic and raw foods. They make it harder for you to do raw and organic than it is to just give you, artificial garbage, which is banned in other countries. This country is just being swallowed alive by big pharma. Big pharma has swallowed alive big agriculture. I don't know if you guys know, but Bayer and Monsanto have merged. You know who Monsanto is. Bayer swallowed them up a couple years ago during the Trump administration. I'm not saying it's his fault, but that just happened on his watch, under his administration. And now you have one of the biggest, and in my opinion, one of the most questionable pharmaceutical companies in modern history really merging with the most questionable agriculture. So when the FDA does food and drugs, there's a reason they do food and drugs. First of all, good foods can be like a drug. There are a lot of plants and natural herbs and natural, a tea or something or salt. There's a lot of things on this earth that can help you like a drug. I'm not telling people I'm a doctor to do, everything holistic. I'm just saying there's two reasons that they group together food and drugs. One, a good food could be like a drug, and a good drug could be a food. They are interchangeable in some cases, but in another hand, big pharma and big agriculture have swallowed each other up and basically just merged the entire industry to the point where they own your food, they own the things they're spraying them with, they own the chemicals, they own the art, they own the vaccines, they own all of the stuff. So at this point, it's just like they're swallowing up our entire country. And this is the crazy part about it. With my opinion, real quick, about Trump, when I love Donald Trump and when I think he's doing a great job, left-wing people just act like they're, oh my gosh, you're the worst thing in the world. Yeah, whatever. You guys are dumb. You don't know what's going on. But then when I criticize Donald Trump, the right wing flips out. My opinion about Donald Trump doesn't matter, folks. Whether you agree with me or not, you think I'm too hard on him, you think I'm too easy on him, my opinion about Donald Trump doesn't actually matter. I'm one person. It's just my opinion. I mean, it's based on evidence, and I do good work. But at the end of the day, what matters is the food you're eating. What matters is the drugs they're giving you. What matters is how the government's operating, how they're printing trillions of dollars and then covering it up and lying about it and saying it's not happening. This is what matters. So if you take anything out of my live stream, whether you love what I'm saying or hate what I'm saying, focus on the food, focus on the drugs, focus on making a difference there, because Trump's not going to save you. Biden's not going to save you. Nobody in the Republican Party outside of Thomas Massie seems to care. Nobody in the Democratic Party seems to care at all, and they want you to fight. They want you to fight over cult of personality. They want you to fight over the little puppets they put in office, because at that point, you're really just doing surface level stuff, and by the time you win, you're in a lockdown. 4 years of my president, I'm in a lockdown. What happened? Because we're not focused on things that actually matter. So I don't care if people agree with me or not, but take something out of it and let's actually do something about the quality of food in our country. And there's no way to drain the swamp in America if we have a president who's running around the country shilling for big pharma. It's not going to happen. I don't care how much people get mad at me. You can't drain the swamp of America while simultaneously providing PR cover for Johnson & Johnson, Moderna, Pfizer, and acting like it's this heroic act to rush out mRNA vaccines for your buddy Bill Gates and all of your little connections with Alex Azar and Johnson & Johnson. It's such a joke. Real quick, before I talk about the Iran story, I want to show you this because I showed that clip of Rochelle Walensky and they say, oh, the data, the experts, the studies, I want you to look at this clip. I played it the other day, but this is all of these experts and government people talking about the economy. They use the same exact rhetoric they use with big pharma and the vaccine and the lockdown. Same stuff. Our data suggests, our studies, the experts. I want you to make the correlation because it's obvious what they're doing. And we know now everything they're saying here ended up not being true. So let's just watch it real quick and listen to the vocabulary they use. It's very interesting.
I really doubt that we're going to see an inflationary cycle.
Most economic analysts believe that it will have a temporary or transitory impact.
The faster than expected increase in some of those prices is actually a good sign.
The overwhelming consensus is going to pop up a little bit and then go back down.
All right, so I'm going to play it again, but I just want to say it before I forget it. Most economic analysts, the consensus, they're using the same exact rhetoric they use with science. Science is a consensus. Most scientists agree. Anomaly, you disagreed with the World Health Organization. It's a consensus. Our analysts, it's the same thing they did with the economy to gaslight us into saying, oh, there's no inflation coming. How is there no inflation coming? You guys printed $6 trillion plus in bipartisan fashion in 2020. Both parties are in on it. And then Joe Biden gets in office and he has two options. Either you pour gasoline on the fire that both parties already started in 2020 with the lockdowns and all these policies, or you try to throw water on it and put the fire out. Joe Biden just pours as much kerosene on the fire that he possibly can, and then the fire erupts a year later and both parties look stunned. It's like, you started it in 2020. You were fine with it in 2020. Your administration got in through kerosene and a bunch of, fuel on the fire, and now you're shocked that it comes. But once again, I'm going to play the whole clip now. Consensus, analysts, data, make the correlation of the exact same rhetoric and vocabulary they used to shut down their opposition to big pharma under the guise of science is the same thing they did to shut down their opposition to their economic implosion and controlled demolition, and acting like you're a dummy if you dare disagree with the experts and consensus, which are questionable, obviously.
I really doubt that we're going to see an inflationary cycle.
Most economic analysts believe that it will have a temporary or transitory impact.
The faster than expected increase in some of those prices is actually a good sign.
The overwhelming consensus is going to pop up a little bit and then go back down. No one's talking about this great,
This is something that will settle down.
Transitory.
And the data shows that most of the price increases we've seen were expected and are expected to be temporary. There's nobody suggesting there's unchecked inflation on the way. It's highly unlikely that's going to be long-term inflation that's going to get out of hand. I don't know anybody who's worried about inflation.
Over the last couple of months, we actually saw it trended downward.
President Biden's chief of staff, Ron Klain, enthusiastically retweeted an economist who had said in part most of the economic problems we're facing, inflation, supply chains, et cetera, are high-class problems.
What is the Granholm plan to increase oil production in America?
Oh my God, that is hilarious. Well, the number one thing that the president can do is help get COVID under control. That we know is the root cause of inflation.
President Biden this afternoon saying he thinks we're at the peak of the crisis right now and that lower prices are on the way.
The inflation has everything to do with the supply chain.
I just wanted to play that clip again because I think it's interesting how they're like, the data suggests, this consensus says. Same thing they do with science. It's not a consensus. It's not a popularity contest. And especially, depending on the research and who you're talking to, it's very questionable. Like when Rochelle Walensky said, the CDC suggests that, if you get the vaccine, you're not going to get or spread the virus. It's like, how many people were you testing? How long did you wait? This is usually why they take years for trials. It's like, okay, that's the data. How good is the data? How long does the data last? How quick are you jumping the gun on the data? The consensus of who? I don't know. It's such a joke, but you guys get it. Let's move to the last story because I think it's the most fascinating and perhaps the most contrarian. I'm not trying to be a contrarian. I just can't help the fact that everybody's so foolish and easy to manipulate. Here's a few politicians talking about Iran, these protests in Iran. Here's Justin Trudeau. He said, or as we like to call him, Justin Trudoofus, because he's a doofus. Canada strongly suggests people who are expressing themselves and protesting peacefully in Iran. We are calling on the Iranian regime to end its repression of freedom of expression and to end the ongoing harassment of and discrimination against women. Wow, so now Justin Trudeau's a freedom fighter. Somebody responded to this and said, hey, bro, you closed my bank account. So during the, Canadian protests, he's closing people's bank accounts, acting like a psycho dictator. But in Iran, he's your friend. Trust me, guys, he's got your back here. Mike Pompeo said, the American people stand with the brave protesters in Iran. Iranians deserve so much better than this terrorist regime. Thank you, Mike Pompeo, the leader for Israel. I mean America. I mean the CIA director and, Secretary of State for Israel. I mean America. I don't know why I keep saying he works for Israel, because he definitely does. It's America. We're totally separate countries, and we don't at all. We're not joined at the hip. We're not being controlled by them. That would be anti-Semitism, and I condemn that. Okay, yes, Mike Pompeo. Thank you. Hillary Clinton said Iranians are protesting for their basic human rights in the aftermath of the horrific death of Mahsa Zina Amini. Iranians deserve to live free from violence and intimidation. The world is watching. So nothing scares me more, and I'm not a fearful person, but nothing creeps me out more than when Democrats and Republicans agree on something. AOC's tweeting about it. Most Republicans I follow are tweeting about it. They're on the same page, and I'm like, uh-oh, is World War III about to start or something? This is, you would think it would be good when the countries, like, when both parties come together. It's like, oh, world peace is coming. Yes, the Democrats and the Republicans, we're finally getting bipartisan support, and it's like, they hate Donald Trump with everything he does. And then when they lock down, for the first time in 4 years, all of a sudden the Democrats and Republicans agree on something. 15 days to slow the spread. Operation Warp Speed, vaccine sales, Pfizer. It's like, no, this is the only time Democrats and Republicans agree on something. Either we're going to bomb some random Middle Eastern country, send our kids to war to die so we can die here of fentanyl, or, like some sort of like proxy war in a foreign country that's going to lead to like trillions of dollars of waste and no solution. Then Biden's going to come in and hand everything to the Taliban, who we fought for 20 years. It's like, it's not necessarily a good thing when everybody agrees on something. Like, oh yeah, Mike Pompeo and George Soros agree on China. Bipartisan support for Israel. I mean, America. I don't know why I keep saying Israel. By the way, God bless, Israelis. We love Israel here. We love the Jews, okay? We're like Donald Trump. Listen, okay? I love the Chinese, okay? I love the Chinese. I sell my apartments to the Chinese, okay? I love the Mexicans. I'm eating a burrito bowl, okay? That's what we do here. We love the Jews. We love Israel. I'm just always like interested when when Mike Pompeo and Hillary Clinton and George Soros and they're all agreeing. Finally, world peace. Oh no, just another proxy war or something. Whatever. Jokes aside, it's like, on a world scale, I could see what's going on. I've branded it in a politically incorrect way that I think is very accurate. In the world right now, there's two superpowers that are competing against each other, and I'm going to simplify it because there's countries that are on the fence right now, like India, for example. Like, India is this country where they kind of work with America. They kind of like they're in. I'm not going to say they're independent, but they could go either way. Like in World War II, World War I, like certain countries like, oh, are they going to get involved? They're going to get involved. There's countries that could go either way. There's a lot of countries I'm not going to mention, but I'm just going to simplify it in a kindergarten perspective of what World War III is gearing up to be. It's like China, right? Communist China, Russia, Iran, and anybody that they decide to align with, right? So China, Russia, and Iran, that's clearly not your dog in the race, right? It's like, okay, who's our dog in the World War III? It's like China, Russia, Iran. Well, it's not that, right? We're not China, we're not communist Chinese, we're not Russian, we're not Iranian. And then in my opinion, China, Russia, and Iran are taking on the liberal gay world order, and the liberal gay world order includes the Zionists like Mike Pompeo, who are your friend, but he's part of the liberal gay world order too, and the pharmaceutical companies. So it's like, who do you want to win, folks? I mean, I live in America, so I hope we win, but it's like China, Russia, Iran versus the liberal gay world order, Zionists, and, the unholy alliance between them and pharmaceutical companies. They disagree on everything unless it's like, fighting Iran or, sticking it to China. Yet when push comes to shove to actually do something about China, all of a sudden they turn into little pansies and don't do anything. But I get it. It's like, how are we even really going to fight China? We're getting millions of dollars, billions of dollars, maybe trillions over the course of time of goods from China. How in the world are we going to start a soft war with Russia and China? Shouldn't we become self-dependent first before we do that? Oh no, they don't think about that, do they? Oh, let's fight Russia, but we don't even have our own oil in Europe. It's like, well, it's not gonna end well. So back to the Iran protests, right? What's going on there? Some woman they're saying got killed, and all the feminists agree with the right wingers. The feminists say women deserve freedom and OnlyFans accounts, and or I don't know what the feminists are saying. Women deserve to be like America. They need OnlyFans. They need to be gay. They need to take out their nipples and protest climate change. How dare the Iranians not allow the liberal gay world order to infiltrate their country? And then the right wingers agree. They're like, yeah, we are America. Of course we can't even preserve our own country, and we're one of the only countries in the world now mandating the vaccine for travelers like North Korea. But but we, the conservatives, we condemn Iran because they're bad, and we think we can do something about it. So you see this unholy alliance between feminists and right-wingers and Hillary Clinton and Mike Pompeo. Everyone finally agrees. We're going to take the liberal gay world order to Iran. And I'm not justifying what happened in Iran, but I'm going to say a few things. Every social justice event in the last 100 years in America, I'm not going to say all of them, some of them were good, but a lot of them, if you do read history and you go through stuff like the George Floyd riots and the every social justice thing before that, the narrative that the media is portraying is not the actual narrative that happened. And I'm not saying anything besides that when, what the TV says versus what actually happened is a lot more complex in almost every social justice situation in America. We know the media lies in America to try to start revolutions. We know the media lies in America to try to sway elections. We know the media, lies in America to push a narrative so that they could get a bunch of fundraising money and shift the scales of power in America. But in Iran, we just got to believe what they're saying, right? Because, if not, what are you, a terrorist? What do you support women's rights? They deserve to drive. It's like, okay, so yeah, the same media and the same politicians like Justin Trudeau that lie about everything, all of a sudden they just really nailed it in the country because I don't like women wearing hijabs. Like, this is like the logic of most right wingers right now, because obviously if you're not Muslim and you don't believe in conservative Muslimism, in Iran, where they're all, forced to have stricter laws than America, you just, for some reason, want to, perpetuate your culture there. And this is a sarcastic tweet, a parody tweet of mine, but this is kind of my joke of like, I wanted people to be a little introspective about it. So I said this. I said, Iran needs to give in to the slippery slope so like the West, they can have drag queen story hour, Lizzo, gay overload pumped at the kids, Nancy Pelosi's running the country. Go Iran, go. You can join the liberal gay world order. Your oppressed women deserve OnlyFans. This was my introspective joke where people kind of freaked out about. I think maybe they thought I was serious, which obviously I should have said something. But it's like, what I don't understand especially if you're conservative in America, I'm just like curious as to why you want to run around the world and make everybody join the gay liberal world order. I'm not saying you have to like Iran and you have to support their regime. They obviously don't like your country. But it's like, what part of you thinks you have any sort of moral high ground to run around countries that are successfully stopping the slippery slope to some form, although it might be wrong and in many cases it might be evil. But what value do you have to provide? You have no control over your own states. Montana recently just allowed people that are transgender to change their identification in Montana. A judge ruled it, and they're following it in Montana. So I'm just saying, if you're a conservative in America, it's like you can't even conserve anything in your own country. You have completely lost the plot. The slippery slope is absolutely real. There's reports that military branches aren't even allowing you to say mom and dad because they consider that gender, discrimination or something. So our own military is turning woke and gay. And all I'm saying is, like, you have no control over anything in your country, but you think that you're on the right side of history because you agree with Justin Trudeau and Hillary Clinton that the most important thing for you to tweet about is to support Iran and turn them into the gay liberal world order. That's what you want for Iran. You want them to be like you, I'm not saying what they're doing is right, but I will tell you this. China, Russia, Iran, they don't have a lot in common. China, racially is filled with, you guessed it, Chinese people. They're not the most Christian country in the world. They're very communist. In many cases, I think they're pretty atheist. And it's a big government structure over there, right? But if you look at China, they're not buying into all the LGBT narrative that America is. They haven't lost the plot on that. Their kids want to grow up and be scientists and doctors. Our kids want to grow up and be YouTubers. That's fine. I'm a YouTuber. I'm just saying these are data. They ask, I want to be this, I want to be that. In America, it's like, I'm just saying they have a totally different culture. They're not pumping feminization of children in China. They're doing the opposite. And I don't like China. I love America. I'm not saying they're better than us. I'm just telling you the correlation I see between these three countries. In China, although they're communist, although they are, not your friend, although I would never want to live there and I think their culture is garbage, they're not buying into the feminization of men. In fact, they're flipping it around and they're trying to go in a different direction. In Russia, as far as the Christian world and, the European world or semi-European world, because I know their country spans multiple areas, they're one of the least weak people left on earth. It's like they have strong men. They don't believe in all this feminization stuff either. They allow it. I mean, they have people who disagree with them in Russia to some extent, but at the same time, it's like they're not buying into all of the liberal gay world order, narrative where we need to do all this social justice. We need to make the kids gay. We need to chop off their private parts and give them hormones. Like, that's not really cultural in Russia. That's not really cultural in China. And that's certainly not really cultural in Iran. These are some of the countries that have aligned themselves. It's an unholy alliance because they really don't have that much, in common. But what they do have in common is that, and also what they do have in common is, they're just three somewhat powerful countries where they're like, yeah, we don't like America, we don't like Israel, we don't like, the European gay, feminized, whatever, beta countries that, have, climate initiative, want to change. Like, they're not buying into that Western philosophy to, like, make your guys girls and, spend trillions of dollars to get away from oil. They're not really buying into that. So they have created this unholy alliance where they're like, yeah, let's stand together and go against that. So as an American citizen, obviously, if there was a world war, I hope there's not, but obviously I'd want to win. I don't want to lose a world war. I don't want to lose to Iran. No offense, I'm not Iranian, so I don't really care about Iran that much. I care for the people there. There's tens of millions of great people. I hope that they can, have some sort of liberty. But at the same time, what people don't understand is, freedom and discipline are two things that need to be balanced. If you have 100% freedom with no discipline, that's actually not a good thing. Like, I'm free to do whatever I want, but it's the discipline that makes me great. I could have never made a single video and you wouldn't know who I was. It's not the freedom that I could have just got 5,000 pounds and just ate Cheetos all day that makes me great. It's discipline. So something that Muslims understand that Christians, for some reason, have forgot about, what made your religion great for thousands of years and made it exist was the fact that Christians had discipline. That's the only thing that separates you from a non-Christian. Yes, you believe in Jesus. Yes, you believe in God. But what was separating people over the last hundred and thousands of years was like Christians had discipline. That's why they build things. That's why they exist right now. That's why they preserve marriage and families, and that's why, biologically they still are here to even perpetuate their ideology. Once you lack discipline as a Christian, you're not going to have a country anymore. You don't own anything. The only countries that are even Christian still is like Romania, Russia. There's really not that many left. Some of South America, Central America are still Christian, but for the most part in the European world, Christianity has been eliminated. And my analysis of it is they don't know that discipline's important, and they've bought into this propaganda that their discipline doesn't matter, and it's just throw it out the window. And it's like, I'm not judging people on an individual. It's, do what you want. And, I'm not a perfect person, so I'm not telling everyone to be, but at the end of the day, the slippery slope is real, and sometimes there's a fork in the road. Do you want to go that way or that way? And if you go that way, you have to deal with the consequences. To make a long story short, Muslims understand this. They understand discipline. Not all of them. They fight. They kill each other. I'm not saying the Muslim world is perfect. Far from it. The Muslim world is a mess right now. But in certain areas of the world, what makes it different from the Christian world is the discipline. Iran has discipline for women and other things. You don't have to agree with it. I'm not telling you to, but if you go to Dubai, yes, it's wealthy, but why is there no crime in Dubai? Because they have discipline. They don't allow crime. San Francisco allows crime. New Orleans allows crime. St. Louis allows crime. In the Muslim world, or especially there, it's a zero tolerance policy. Just like they have a zero tolerance policy for certain feminism, they have a zero tolerance policy for certain crime and theft. So when you go to certain places in the Middle East, you don't see it very often because it's not cultural and they don't allow it. So, this idea that the Muslim world has to be like America is really a wicked ideology of like, I want to make you like us. I don't even want to be us. Why would I want them to be us when I don't even think what we're doing is right to our own people? Why would I try to spread this ideology all over the world without fixing it myself? Once we fix America and put it back to a country where it's like moral and sane and we're treating children good and women right and everybody, families are, why would we want to spread this here? One of the reasons that families don't really exist in America as much is because people don't have discipline and people don't have religion. I've come to this reality recently. I haven't always felt this way. I've been someone that has been fair weather. And to be honest, I'm still not a perfect person. I'm far from it, but I'm starting to realize, as I read and as I grow older, it's like, oh, I do understand why marriage was between a man and a woman. I'm not saying I hate you if you're gay. I have plenty of gay friends, but at the end of the day, a man and a woman create a child, they reproduce, and it's the perfect family structure to have the feminine and the masculine. You can raise your kid, you know what I'm saying, and they can take care of you when you're older. This is a system that works. If you do a man and a woman and a woman, I'm not going to hate you or treat you bad. I'm going to treat you with the respect that you earn from me, just like anybody else in this world. But it's like, if you're two men, you can't make a kid. You got to go get one. If you're two women, you can't make a kid. You got to go get one. So it's like the family structure is now artificial to some extent. And I'm not hating on you or knocking it, but it's like, I understand why things are going the way they're going. If you talk to, and I'm just guessing, if you talk to 100 conservatives, this is just a guess, a rough guess, but I think it's somewhat accurate. If you talk to 100 conservatives and you said, hey, do you think that you should be able to change genders and identify as whatever you want? I would guess that 99% of conservatives would be like, no, or at least there'd be some sort of line that they would draw, right? They'd be like, I'm not going to judge you if you do this, but I don't think you should just be able to change your identification on a whim, because then I could identify as a flower. And at a certain point, you have to have some sort of rules and structures, or else everything falls apart. I would guess 99% of conservatives would be like, no, I don't think that you should do that, and I don't think that we should just be like an open vortex where anybody can just do anything. But if you ask most conservatives right now, a lot of conservatives are pro-gay marriage and pro-LGBT and say, I don't care who you are and what you do. But here's the point I want to get to. I'm not trying to be hateful to anybody. I'm just being realistic. If I said to most conservatives now, what do you think a marriage is? Do you think it should be between a man and a woman? You're probably going to get like a 50-50 response. Most conservatives actually don't care. Conservatives aren't even today what the left wing says they are. There's a lot of strict Christian conservatives, but there's a lot of conservatives that are like, whatever, I don't care. As long as I do me and you do you, I don't care what you do in your bedroom, and I think you should get married. I don't care. It's just a tax write-off and a government scam anyway. And I get that because I kind of have it too. It's like, if you want to get scammed by the government and get taxes, that's fine. But the point I'm getting is marriage used to mean something as a word. If you could change the definition of a word, marriage did mean between a man and a woman. It's like saying, paper, this is paper, right? that's the word. You can make up another word for it, but it's like paper is paper. If you say paper is now plant, and it could mean all of that, now nothing matters anymore. So it's like, if you want to create another union between that and that, I understand now why Christians were against it, because if you give up the definition historically and dictionary wise of what marriage literally meant for thousands of years, now you've changed that word, and now that word doesn't mean what it means anymore. So if you can change marriage, why not change gender? It is a slippery slope. If you're pro changing the definition of marriage, I think you can't complain about the definition of gender. And I know that sounds crazy, but people will say, well, gender's biological, but marriage is not biological. That's not true. Marriage actually is biological, because a man and a woman stick their private parts together and create new life. It's literally how humanity continues to operate and exist. Once you take away that, it is biological. The man, the woman, the feminine, the masculine, the mother, the father, you create a child, you raise it, and then that child will take care of you when you're older and create new kids. It is biological. So, I'm not trying to be a jerk at all, because I don't judge people. This is a crazy world. To be 100% fair as an individual, I'm not the type to bash people based on their sexuality. I'm more interested in discovering why and seeing how you feel, because I don't know how you feel, and everybody's born differently. Everybody's, raised differently, and there's a reason why people do what they do. I'm more interested in figuring it out versus demonizing people. However, this is the point that I'm trying to make when it comes to Iran. Okay, America, you want women to do everything, right? All conservatives are like, I don't care what my woman does as long as she's American, and but at the same time, you don't agree with third wave feminism because it's too far. I don't think they should be castrating children. I don't think they should be, unshaven and 50 drinking wine. Like, the conservative will be like, I want this, but I don't want this, right? I don't agree with third wave feminism, but everything else is fine. It's the same thing. It's a slippery slope. I'm not saying women shouldn't be able to do all this stuff, but at the end of the day, name a country in the world right now that's able to keep that without turning into that. They really don't exist. So in the Muslim world, whether it be Saudi Arabia or Iran, although it's not my religion, although I don't want to live there, I'm just doing a fair analysis of it, is they are stopping the slippery slope that America couldn't stop. They are stopping the slippery slope that Europe couldn't stop. They're doing something different than we're doing and getting different results. Are there going to be pros and cons to both systems? Of course. In America, it's probably easier to start a business and do a lot of stuff. In Iran, it's probably easier to just be a mom and, not have to do all this other stuff. And, I'm not blaming the women or taking away from the women, because I think in America, a lot of the reason it got this way is because a lot of men are weak and pathetic and just say whatever. It's like, yeah, whatever. So how is the woman not going to play the role of the man when as a man, you're not doing anything? A lot of women are left out to dry, and it's like, if you're not going to get it done, I'm going to get it done. American women are powerhouses. They've been, for the last 30, 40 years, they've had to do the job of 5 people because, the family unit was broken down. I think technology had to do with it. Cultural destruction had to do with it. The workforce and the wars and just certain social policies. There's a lot of reasons, but in general, women in America, I don't blame them at all. It's like they're picking up the slack for a bunch of loser men and a bunch of guys that don't want to really do stuff. And someone said men are being attacked. Absolutely, for sure. And it's not. I'm not just hating on men. I am one. It's just like in general. I see that as the delay. So now in America, women, in my opinion, are doing too much. Not just the third wave feminism, but just they're expected to do everything a man's supposed to do, and that's not natural. I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm not going to tell you there's brilliant women who drive planes and, invent things and are physical monsters and just great at a sport. You got to be true to yourself. You're not supposed to match everybody else. You don't have to be exactly the same. There's always going to be anomalies and great people in any field. But at the end of the day, the role of the woman in America is perverted. And the reason conservatives lose is because they play into the slippery slope. It's the same analogy of big pharma. If you lock the country down, do a 2019 executive order for Bill Gates and Big Pharma, you roll out the red carpet for Fauci and Dr. Birx, you do 15 days to slow the spread, you fund Big Pharma, you buy their products, you protect them from liability through an emergency that a pharmacy lobbyist you employed did. you're going to get mandates and you're going to get corruption. It's like you do steps 1 through 12, Democrats do steps 13 through 15, and Republicans act shocked. Well, I like Donald Trump anomaly. He didn't do the mandates. Of course he didn't do the mandates, but he did steps 1 through 12 to roll out the red carpet for corruption. I knew mandates were coming in 2019 and 2020. Why? Because it's obvious. So when your party provides no opposition to the road, you're going to get it. And this is the same thing conservatives do with feminism, with women, with religion, with discipline. They provide little to no resistance, so they literally just turn into the Democratic Party of 20 years ago. And I'm not saying certain progressions I think are good in humanity and they progress for a reason, but I would say we're regressing, right? Our kids are getting weaker, they're more depressed, they're on more pharmacy pills. I would guarantee you that depression among children is more now than it was 30 years ago. That's not progression. You don't want your kids to hate themselves and not want to, thrive in this world. So that's not progressive. The fact that so many people are miserable, so many people are depressed, so many people have anxiety, so many, defects in kids are on the rise. If you look at the science literature, like not everything is progressing for the better. It doesn't mean you're racist. There's a lot of things that are going the wrong direction. Why are they going the wrong direction? If you look and get to the root of why they're going in the wrong direction, 9 times out of 10, the Republican Party and the conservatives put up zero opposition because they don't care. It's like, I don't care. Who cares what? It's like, yeah, who cares, right? I get it. No, I don't get in other people's bedrooms and really say, oh, this is how you have to be like me. I don't care. I'm responsible for me, and the more I spend time judging and hating others is more time that I'm falling short as a person, and I'm going to make mistakes myself. So I try to focus on myself, but realistically, I find it just crazy that the Republican Party and conservative culture is trying to go to Palestine and tell them to be gayer, is trying to go to Iran and tell them to be gayer and to give women everything women have in America. You want them to have OnlyFans accounts? No, not that part. Okay. You want them to have drag queen story hour? No, not that part. You want to be run by psycho left-wing feminists that are willing to, act like Karl Marx on steroids because they're emotional and buying into a big government philosophy. And there's men doing it too, but there's a lot of women in power doing it. Oh, no, I don't want that part. So how are you going to give Iran the good parts of your culture without the bad parts of your culture if you can't even do it in America? That's just my question. It's like, how are you going to do it? You're not even able to do this in our own country. You're not even able to do it in most conservative areas. Texas is getting 10 to 20% more blue than it was 20 years ago. You look at major Texas cities, they used to vote red. Now they're owned by the Democrats. You can't even save the heart of America. How in the world are you going to export the good parts of your culture to Iran and Palestine without exporting the bad parts? You can't. Conservatives are playing a losing game. There's a reason you're on the same page with Hillary Clinton and Justin Trudeau now, because you're not right, and I understand that our country is in a soft war with Iran and China and Russia. So on a military operation, yeah, we're not going to get along with Iran. We're not going to get along with China, and we're not going to get along with Russia. I understand that, and I don't want to lose a war, so I'm not a self-hating American. But at the same time, I can't help but notice that when push comes to shove, conservatives are always on the side of Hillary Clinton and Justin Trudeau on issues like this. And, like I said earlier, they have perverted and distorted 20 to 50 social justice events in the last couple years, from Bubba Wallace to Jussie Smollett to putting the BLM on the things to, once I've investigated all stuff, I'm not saying that hatred doesn't exist and there's no evil cops, but if you get to the core and you really want to be fair and say, hey, I'm going to take my bias out of this because obviously I think cops are corrupt, and I'm going to study these things and really listen to both sides. I mean, most of the social justice events they've pushed have, one, been totally fabricated or misreported, and two, led to more destruction. Regardless of what you think of the George Floyd scenario, what came about it? Billions of dollars flow to Act Blue and a lot of progressive and left-wing causes. They made a cash cow off that. cities got crappier. They burned down a bunch of businesses that were already getting kicked in the teeth by the government. The government's kicking small businesses in the teeth for 3 months under a lockdown. Our citizens are so brainwashed that they're not even fighting for these businesses to stay open. And then they just get programmed to go burn down their city. And now all these neighborhoods are shittier than they were before you came there. You didn't build anything. You didn't establish any laws that made sense. A lot of these defund the police laws that they pushed on the back of George Floyd got rescinded a year later because even the Democrats realized that crime started escalating, because that's not the root of it. You look at a lot of black hip hop artists that have been killed over the last 2 years. I could think of, just in my, sphere of people that I'm interested in, because I actually love hip hop. I'm a hip hop artist myself. I've watched over 20 black hip hop artists get killed. Who killed them? Was it a white person? Almost never. Was it a cop? It wasn't. It was a black person, usually a gangbanger, or honestly some teenager that was exploiting them posting their location and trying to steal their stuff. So if that's what's killing a bunch of rappers, then why won't anyone talk about it? How come not? How come you just want to cry for a month, burn down a neighborhood, literally destroy like dozens of black businesses, screw over everybody, and then just go back to rapping about drugs and petty crime? What is that going to do for black America? Nothing. It's all fake. So the point I'm getting is, we know how fake people are in our country, yet we're supposed to believe when something happens in a foreign country that it's just 100% believable, and that's the narrative to go with. I want to use another example, and I'm not going to tell you I know exactly what happened here, but, I have my suspicions. When Jamal Khashoggi got killed, I believe by Saudi, like in a Saudi Arabian embassy or something, he died, Jamal Khashoggi, he was a journalist. Left-wingers were up in arms, and even a lot of right-wingers like, oh my gosh, we can't have journalists killed in foreign countries. That's terrible, because it is. But it's like, if you look up who Jamal Khashoggi was, I'm not saying this justifies it at all, because it doesn't. And I'm sure he was a great guy. But it's like, this guy was interesting. He had connections to like princesses. I think the Princess of Wales. I have to relook it up, but I'm not familiar with that. But he was like Bin Laden's personal interviewer. Bin Laden trusted this guy so much that he tagged along with Bin Laden for years and was getting all these Bin Laden interviews prior to 9/11. I'm not saying that that's justification to kill him. It's not, but I'm like, who is this guy? Like, why did Bin Laden trust him so good? And there's got to be a deeper story than the media is talking about here, because he's not just some random guy that's just like, a random reporter. He's like deep in the trenches. So that doesn't make it right. But the point I'm getting to is, everybody's just like, oh, can we ask some questions? Like, what was going on? Who was this guy? There's got to be a reason that it happened, not to make it right. But, people are so programmable. It's like, this is the thing that you're going to care about because Trump's not doing enough. Well, we're allies with Saudi Arabia. So at a certain point, it's like, I'm not saying everything they do is right, but they're one of our allies. So we're not going that hard at them. The same reason when we found out, or that they alleged that the 9/11 hijackers were from Saudi Arabia, why didn't we go hard at Saudi Arabia then? Because we really can't, because they're on our side in this geopolitical battle. So, if another country does something, we go after them. If one of our allies does something like Israel or Saudi Arabia, or, name a few of our other allies, we'll just ignore it. We'll act like it never even happened, because probably we can't do anything about it. But point I'm getting to is, people are so easy to manipulate based on foreign activism. So with this Iranian thing, I don't know what happened. God bless the woman who died. But there's already people that are posting, the same as when there's a social justice event in America, saying the media is lying about it, exaggerating about it, and saying that it's not exactly how it happened. I'm not going to speak on it because I haven't fully investigated it, but my intuition and my gut tells me that I know exactly what's going on. Whether it's justified or not, America is in a soft war with Iran, Russia, and China. Although we treat China with the most respect, because China has a lot of power over America because we're getting so many goods from them. It's a lot easier to bully, I would say Iran or Syria than it is to bully China or Russia. Although we're trying with Russia, it's even harder to do with China. But in general, with Iran, we're trying to overthrow their government. Whether you think it's justified or not, that's it. The liberal gay world order of the West, whatever you want to call our unholy alliance between us, Israel, Saudi Arabia, gay Europe, and, all the Europeans that are feminized, completely useless, and probably going to just be, shrivel into poverty from all their stupid energy policies. Those are our allies. So when it comes to Russia, we're trying to regime change them. When it comes to Iran, we're trying to regime change them. When it comes to China, I think our government knows that it's not even possible because they're too strong and they have this like dictator like rule over their country. So we don't even really talk about changing their leader. But in Iran, that's the low-hanging fruit. So, you know, Mike Pompeo, former CIA director, Hillary Clinton, left-wingers, right-wingers, AOC, you know, they all come together, condemn, and they're trying to do what they've done in multiple countries before, which is start a protest that turns into a riot that gives justification for a regime change. This is the same story that has happened over and over and over and over and over again. And when it comes to the George Floyd riots, you know, a lot of that function that was being pushed into that. Did you see the condemnation of the violence? Did the media and the Democrats make it clear, you know, stop burning down black businesses, stop destroying mostly black neighborhoods, stop destroying all neighborhoods, stop just like, you know, bashing in windows? Did they make it clear to tell people to stop? No, they were fueling the fire. You had celebrities bailing them out of jail, saying it was mostly peaceful, acting like it's amazing, bending over backwards for them. Imagine if the Capitol got stormed and then the NFL said, because the Capitol got stormed, we're going to do billions of dollars of Trump, you know, Trump propaganda on our fields. That's what they did for the riots. The riots did billions of dollars of property damage. They ruined hundreds of people's businesses. They killed multiple people. And the NFL said, we're going to reward you for your revolution because we're on the same side as you. So just like they do in foreign countries, Donald Trump is the president, right? They want Joe Biden in office because he's more controllable. So they're pumping fuel in a protest turn riot in America because that's like their bread and butter. They've done it in so many countries. So I'm not saying I love Iran's leader. I don't know much about him. I would assume that a lot of the country loves him and a lot of the country doesn't like him. It's like you interview one person on Iran and they say, I hate the leader. It's like you can interview a Biden supporter and they'll say they hate Biden, or interview a Trump supporter and say they hate, you know, or you get what I'm saying. It's like, so I don't really know what the people there want. If they want that Islamic regime, if they want to be gay and have OnlyFans accounts like America, I'm not sure. I mean, you know, it's up to them because there's, you know, pros and cons to both systems. But in my opinion, I don't think at all this is just some like completely random, and, you know, like there's crazier things that happen to more people in other countries that never get talked about because there's no political narrative. And the narrative here is, for sure, they want a regime change the leader in Iran to make their country gayer, more liberal, and, you know, eventually going down the slippery slope where women can, you know, not shave, hate their husbands, stop reproducing, you know, give their husbands castration pills, and, you know, tell their kids to go to drag queen story hour. That's what they want for Iran. And I guess, you know, it would be nice if they could have a middle ground where they have some freedom and not that, but that's not really what's going to happen. So if you want to be part of that and make them, turn them into, you know, your country, it's on you. I mean, I don't know. I'm more interested in making our country more righteous than I am running around the Muslim world telling them to drop their discipline on women, God, and, you know, clothing, and tell them to be exactly like us. Because I don't know that our system leads to the most moral and righteous place. And honestly, you know, outside of the geopolitical battle, I think the discipline of Muslims in certain countries is actually righteous, and it's actually the only way to stop the slippery slope. I mean, that's just how I feel. Appreciate you guys. God bless you. And I'll read some questions. Since I already stayed pretty long, I'm going to read some questions. Someone said, is 70% of the world gay? Naturally, no. But I mean, at this rate, 70% of the world will be gay, because if you're a kid and you think you're a fireman and you don't even know what sex is, you know, you're not going to think about sex until you know, start hitting, like, I don't know, 10 to 18. Like, these things start like slowly making your way into life, and people, you know, your friends tell you this, that, you know, but when you're like 6, you're not thinking about that for sure. And usually when you're even like under 12 or 13, it's not even a top couple priority. As you hit your teens, you start thinking about women and stuff a little more. But at the same time, if you're gonna, you know, bash kids over the head with you're gay, you're gay, you're gay, you're gay, it's better to be gay, it's bad to be straight, you're a white man, it's bad, but if you're gay, it's good. If you're transgender, we're proud of you, we're gonna give you goodies. You know, of course, the number of gay kids is gonna go up from 1%, 2%, 5%, 10%, 20%. The numbers are way up. Why are they up? It's not natural. They're not up because they're I'm sorry. They're not up because they're natural. They're up because they're jamming it down kids' throats. And that's what happened. If all of the televisions and all of the media and all of YouTube literally put billions of dollars into saying, you know, you should be a plumber. Plumbers are cool. You did plumber TV shows, or the plumber's the hero. Mario got redone. And you would see more people wanting to be plumbers. Why? Because they're pushing that propaganda on your head. It's like, wow, plumbers are cool, plumbers are awesome, plumbers are the future, plumbers make me a badass, I'm going to be a plumber now. Of course, this is why certain films like the military collaborates with them, because if you make the military look really cool, people are going to want to join it, So it's not natural at this point that the numbers are being inflated. They're going up, up, up because the kids are being absolutely crashed over the head in every sort of TV station with this is who you are, this is the more righteous thing to do. When you're a man, whether you're a black man, a white man, a Muslim man, a Jewish man, a Mexican man, whatever, it's like, oh, I'm a man. And, you start to feel it when you hit like the grade schools and stuff, your liberal teachers, they're not like, oh, men are amazing, women are amazing, men are strong and that's great, and women are good at this. They're like, oh, the patriarchy. So you start feeling bad. You're like, oh, I'm a man. This is, I feel bad. So it's like they want to turn you into David Hogg, where he's like, I don't even want to have kids. He looks like he doesn't really work out that much. Like, that's what they want you to do. They want you to be a self-hating, self-deprecating, like, I'm ashamed that I even exist, so my whole life needs to be serving other people and their agendas. That's what they want you to do as a man when you're younger. So the numbers of men being like that are skyrocketing. It's not natural. It's obvious. If I controlled the media and I controlled education and I picked a topic, I could make millions of people want to do that topic. That's just how it works, Why do you play soccer? Your dad played soccer. Your mom wanted you to play soccer. You watched it on TV. Like, you don't just come out the womb and wanting to do something. People teach you that, especially under 10. You're like a USB cable, or like, you're being, everything you're getting is downloaded. That's just how humanity works. Why do you speak English? Someone spoke English, either your parents or your school teacher. If your parents were Spanish and they didn't speak English, they made sure you learned English. You don't just pop out the womb speaking Russian if your dad's Russian. You learn it, nature versus nurture. So, all of this, the ways people feel as a young kid, it's not natural, and I'm not saying there's certain things that are, but the people running the show are against the natural order, and they're artificially pumping everything. Everything the left does nowadays is artificial. mRNA in your body, it's synthetic mRNA. Your body has mRNA, and I'm not telling you this or that. I'm not telling you your body's doing this, but for years they demonized your immune system, and they were blocking trending topics talking about natural immunity until years later they were forced to do a report on what natural immunity does. And they're telling everybody that you're not okay, you're not allowed to go into grocery stores, or you're not allowed to go into freaking sporting events unless you get synthetic, not real that your body made and God gave you, synthetic mRNA created by Moderna and Pfizer. Pfizer getting sued by Moderna because they got the patents 10 years ago. Inject yourself with synthetic mRNA so you can go to a sports game. Eat synthetic meat. Don't eat real meat. Eat a burger that looks like meat, but it's all the synthetic products or plant products or, canola oil, holding it all together. Eat that. Synthetic food, synthetic drugs, synthetic ideology, synthetic non-natural ways of sexuality. And I'm not saying that nobody is born thinking that. I don't know. I'm just saying if everybody were left and there was no propaganda either way, straight or gay, most people would be straight. If you keep pumping propaganda down kids' throats, the number of gays is going to increase. I'm not saying it would be zero, but it definitely wouldn't be as high as it is now. Soft pornography being pumped on Instagram and all over the place, like porn all over your face. Like, yeah, people are going to start thinking otherwise. Yeah. Why are families down? I mean, obviously the lack of religion has a lot to do with it, but even a lot of Christians are not even faithful. It's tough to be faithful in this world. You really got to want it, work on it, and have discipline. As a husband or a wife, you have freedom, but freedom doesn't make you a great wife. A free wife has sex with 50 guys. I'm free. I can do whatever I want. That's not what makes a great wife. It's discipline. Saying, I'm not going to just bang every guy I see. I'm going to save myself for my husband. And same with a husband to a wife. So it's like, this is what a lot of conservatives don't realize is freedom is great when it comes to ideas and creation, but really it's discipline that makes a great person. So, at the end of the day, technology, everybody's got an Instagram, everybody's got a Facebook. If you're a popular man, now you have, you go from nobody giving a crap about you to having thousands of women want to, date you. Takes a lot of discipline to like really, be great. I mean, even for myself, I'm not like married, and I'm not like, but things, when you have options, it gets a lot, you need more discipline. It needs to be tougher, So there's multiple reasons the family's breaking down. And it's not to play the victim, or it's not to blame people, but in order to solve these problems in our country, I think we have to identify them and be honest about them. And that's something a lot of people don't do. I think a lot of left-wingers just say, whatever, I don't care, that's crazy. Okay, then just do whatever you want, see what happens. That's not what makes you happy. You need to be honest with yourself. If you're always fighting against nature, you're going to be miserable. And I think a lot of conservatives also say whatever. And I'm not saying I'm perfect, but if you just say whatever and you have no, I see even a lot of conservative relationships where the woman is just running rampant and the guy is like being completely dominated. And I'm not saying, to each their own, however you want to run your relationship. But I do think if that's the type of relationship, if you're have a wife that is like totally the man in the relationship, and you're kind of like, you just let her do whatever because she's free to do whatever, I mean, she's going to eventually resent you. I think that's just human psychology. So I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not saying I have it all figured out, but I think liberals don't think it all. I think conservatives are way too liberal with stuff, and everything's failing for that reason. There needs to be, at bare minimum, a real conversation to be had. This way we can identify issues and work through them, versus just ignoring them and acting like they're not real and it's sexist to talk about them. Sure, say that, but relationships are going to fail at record numbers until people have real honest discussions about who they are, their sexuality, their the dynamic between a man and a woman, leaning into your pros and cons and drawing thick lines that you can't cross. The media said Mike Pence was so bad. Oh my gosh, Mike Pence doesn't want to sit with other women. That's awesome. I mean, I'm not saying every husband has to do that, but the fact that Mike Pence and his wife have that type of discipline to, not sit with other people, I think that's impressive. And I think that that's honorable. I see a lot of women that are married and, they're having lunch with 20 different dudes. Oh, business meet, this and that. I don't know. I'm not really about that life. It's like you want to trust your spouse, but at the end of the day, it's like I do think that normalizing just being all over the place is not the play. All right, I'm going to read a few comments that I'm going to take off. D said, this has been one of the best videos you put out. Keep speaking the truth. Thank you so much, D Marquez. I appreciate it. And I want to say this, D, I appreciate you. And to me, the ethnicity of my audience doesn't matter. I love all people and I appreciate everybody who listens, but it's like I noticed, it looked like you were Hispanic or your last name was Hispanic. People in America think that the whole world thinks like us. It's like outside of the liberal gay world order, as I call it, in America and Europe and, a few countries, it's actually like most of Mexico. If you were like, hey, we're going to do this, it's not like everybody would fight it. Most people agree with you. Yes, the left wing is loud, but you go to Africa, they're not buying into all this stuff that we're buying into. So the left pushes us far. The right just trails along. But a lot of the world still, the world outside of like the big proxy war, World War III, a lot of the world isn't buying into all this stuff. They still value families. They still let women be women. Like we're in some ways in the minority of like weirdos in the world, where like Africa looks at us like, yeah, we don't have it all figured out, but that's not right. The Muslim world doesn't agree with us. Most of the Spanish world doesn't agree with us. It's not like Republicans make you think that it's like, oh yeah, we have to do this, or we have to cave because that's just the way it is. That's the way it is because Democrats write the narrative. They push it further and further towards insanity. And all the right wing ever does is just trail along and turn into the Democrats of 5 years ago. Obama was against gay marriage when he ran in office. I don't care if you agree or disagree with that, but the average Republican is further left than Obama was socially. Obama was further right socially than most Republicans in office right now, 20 years ago. I mean, that's just interesting, is it not? Someone said, I don't think some Africans know what gay is. Ha ha ha. I mean, they probably know what it is, but they probably just don't think about it all the time. It's like when I grew up, when I was in college, I'm so glad. I feel so bad for the younger generation because when I was in college, of course I thought about race. It's not like I didn't think about it at all. And it wasn't like I understood differences and I would say inequalities, or, I bought into some of these things. I'm like, oh, I see it. I'm not stupid. I know there's difference between race a little bit and how people are treated in this country. But at the end of the day, all of college and for most of it after, hold on, there's like an ambulance coming, but it's annoying. I don't know if you can hear it. I didn't think about race at all. Like, I'd be at a party and I wouldn't think, like, it wasn't a thing in my head. Obviously, I could look at someone and be like, oh yeah, you're black or you're Spanish. Like, it's obvious, but like, it wasn't a thing that anyone cared about. It's like, yo, if I like you, I like you. If I don't, I don't. I'm at parties. The last thing I'm thinking about is race. The last thing I'm thinking about is what's that person going to think because of the race I am or that. It wasn't when I was in college. Nobody really thought about it. Yeah, we thought about it and analyzed it in class and something. But as people, you're a guy, I'm a guy, you're a woman. Nobody was over analyzing race. Now the kids, I mean, you can't, like, everybody thinks about it more now because they pumped it so hard into the media, so hard into the schools, pumped. It's overthought about. And, the racism, it's worse than it was 6 years ago. Things aren't getting better. They're all getting worse. Racial relations, how people are thinking, how they're acting. It's all getting worse. I'm glad I grew up in an era where it wasn't over pushed. I mean, people thought about it. It's not like it didn't exist at all, but now the kids are a mess. They're an absolute mess, and they have no idea what it's like to live in a world where everyone doesn't act that way all the time. Like, it's a foreign concept to them, to the point where, it needs to be addressed. I think there's a great quote that I heard a while ago. I don't know where I heard it. I forget, or I'd give the person credit. But they said that a lot of people in the older generation thought, oh, these millennials, these Gen Xs or whatever they are, it's like they're going to grow up. Like, it's like people didn't discipline their kids right, or people like let them just go off and think whatever, and thought to themselves, they'll figure it out. They'll learn once they go into the real world. And I get it. I'm not saying it's easy to be a parent or it's easy to like make your kid think like you think. It's probably not, but they thought these kids will go into the real world and then they'll learn, right? And some people did. I did. But what happened was a lot of these millennials and whatever, they went into the real world and they changed the real world into their world. So it's like they didn't just go into the real world and learn. They changed the real world into their ideology. And now we're playing catch up like, oh, shoot, I thought they would learn. I didn't think they'd do all this. This is crazy. It's like, so there's a lesson to be learned there. I'm not saying you could force your kid to be like you. Of course, you got to, at some point, I'm sure, let your kid be who they want to be. But I think the lack, like when I used to talk to my grandma and my mom, every generation it got weaker. Like, and my grandma, they're taking the gum out of their mouth and sticking it on their nose. They're hitting the kids in the hand, like with the thing. You respected your teacher. Your mom got mad at you if you got mad at the teacher. That was my grandma's generation. It's like stick the gum on your nose. And then people thought, well, that's too mean. Let's not do that. And then my mom's generation, it's like they were still strict and it was different than my generation. Then it's my generation. It's getting a little weaker. It's fine though. But now people are just letting their kids do whatever and there's very little discipline. And now you move forward and it's like the new generation is like an absolute disaster. So it's like, this begs the question, even with education and discipline, it's like, you don't want to repeat the mistakes of your parents and grandparents, but it's like, there is a conversation to be had about, I'm not saying it was perfect back then, because I'm sure it was a lot of psychological abuse, but, at what point did we go too far? I think everybody kind of sees it. Someone said I got my mouth washed out with soap when I was bad. See, I don't like that one because like putting soap in your mouth seems like toxic, I'm all for disciplining someone, but I heard about the soap thing. Luckily, I never had to do that, but it's like, what products are in the soap? Like, what if you poison your kid or something? I don't know. I'm all for discipline, but the soap one, I'm like, I don't want, I'm not like, yeah, eat soap. Like, I don't know. You better hope that soap is made with some solid ingredients. Someone said, that's why I appreciate you, Anomaly, because racism is a myth that's programmed into people's head. It's called propaganda, said B. Well, I do tend to like the Jesse Lee Peterson angle of it, where he's a black man who was raised under Jim Crow laws in the South, and he says racism doesn't exist. Lil Wayne says racism doesn't exist, and people get so mad at Lil Wayne. I mean, Lil Wayne's a gangbanger. He's been, shot when he was younger. Wayne is not a soft guy, and he says, I've never experienced racism. And they get so mad at Lil Wayne. They get so mad at Jesse Lee Peterson. But at the end of the day, here's why I believe that people need to think about it. Manifestation is real. If you put your mind to something and you work on it, your chances of succeeding are way higher than thinking another way. Like Andrew Tate got banned off of everything. I was just listening to his podcast. It got banned. But he was saying, basically, I say that depression doesn't exist, not because I'm trying to tell depressed people that they don't exist, but he's trying to say, I'm not going to believe something that makes me weaker. So when I'm sad, I try to use it to my motivation. I went and did things versus just reveling in my own sorrow. So he said, as much as I don't want kids to kill themselves, and I try to help them out, like he's like, I saved a lot of kids' lives by saying, you're not depressed, go do this. They listened and they figured it out versus, he's making the argument that men, it's like if you don't succeed as a man, you can either admit it and try to succeed, or you could say, I'm depressed, and now it's a shield for all of your shortcomings. So it's like, I get the ideology, although some might think it's cold, saying I'm not going to think something that makes me weaker. So if you're black and you think about racism all the time, you're going to find it. If you're black and you think about, racial harmony, you'll find it. You'll find what you're looking for. So if you think you're depressed all the time and you buy into that narrative, you'll be depressed forever. At a certain point, you have to break the cycle and train your mind to do something else. Be grateful, appreciative, because at a certain point, it might be, something that you need to face, but, you got to look at yourself in the mirror and say, let's be honest, can I get over this? So the reason Lil Wayne has been so successful, besides the fact that he has a great work ethic and he's a talented rapper, is he's got a great mindset outside of maybe his lyrics that you don't like. He's like, I've never experienced racism. He's like, I'm cool with white people. A white guy saved my life when I was younger, and my white fans are awesome. I don't care. I like everybody. And it's like, living that way, he doesn't experience racism, because if someone white does something wrong to him, he doesn't think, oh, that person did it because I'm black. He thinks that person did it because they're a dickhead, or that person did it because they have issues. Even if somebody does something racially to me, I'm not taking it personally. Oh, white boy, F you. It's like, I'm not thinking, oh my God, they're racist. I'm just thinking that person has issues. That person has problems. That person's hurt. That person's lost and hurt, so they're taking it out on me. I don't consider that racism. Even if you say, hey, white boy, I hate you because of the color of your skin. I don't even think that's racism. It's like, no, you are a loser. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not the problem in your life. When I walk away as a white boy, as I walk away in 5 minutes, your life's not going to be solved and you're not going to be happy. It's you. You're the problem, and I'm not going to take it personally, and I'll never consider that racism, even though most would define that as racism. So, you get what you find, and manifestation's real. So when it comes to people saying racism's a myth, most people will act shocked by that. No way. It's like, Sean King, for example. If Sean King acted like Lil Wayne, do you think so many people would hate him? Of course not. Lil Wayne, say what you want about his music and his lyrics, he's a nice guy. He's a very likable guy as a human being, and he's got a lot of white friends and white fans and black friends and black fans. Sean King sucks. The reason so many people hate Sean King isn't because he's light-skinned or whatever he says he is. It's because Sean King sucks, and his whole life revolves around seeing racism, and he sees it thousands of times a day. Look at all these nasty emails of people calling me names. It's like, you live in that world, and you find it because you have no self-accountability, self-awareness. I'm friends with Bryson Gray. He personally says, if you call me the N-word, I'll just laugh at you. I don't even care. That's how you take power away from the word. If the word bothers you, people will keep using it to try to trick you. It doesn't make it right, but it's like, if you could laugh at, like if someone said the meanest thing about my race, about my skin color, I'm not going to think anything other than that person is evil and has issues, and it's not, I don't think it's about me. It's like a guy yelling at you drunk at a bar. I walk away in 5 minutes, he's going to be fighting with someone else. It's not about me. It's about their mindset, their life, and their shortcomings. So, I think there's something to be said about manifestation, the power of the mind, what you think and believe, and, just like how you operate in this life. It's super important. Someone said Gavin Newsom has put up billboards with Bible quotes. I did a video on Gavin Newsom. I'm going to put it on Facebook with a little more extended version. So there's this video of Gavin Newsom from 15 years ago or so. It's in 2008. He says basically that, I'm trying to think of what it says. Oh, he's trying to solve homelessness and chronic homelessness. He's going to solve it. And then you look at the video and it's been 10 years and he's done nothing but make it worse in San Francisco and California. And I have a solution for homelessness. I know why it's a problem. I know how to solve it, but you have to enforce it. I'm not going to say now because I'm making a whole video about it, but I guarantee you if the government followed my protocols, they could solve homelessness in under a year. It doesn't even take that long, but you need to combine providing resources with discipline and tough love. If you give your friend everything that they want and they live in your house and they're doing crack and they're destroying your property, and you say, that's fine, just keep destroying my living room, just keep destroying my kitchen, just keep destroying my bed, that's fine, you're allowed to do it. They're going to keep doing it. At a certain point, you have to kick them out of your house and say, bro, you can't do that in my house, So with homelessness, they allow it to happen. They have no enforcement to say, you can't destroy this park, you can't destroy the street. They say, here's a clinic. And then people go shower there, get the food, and then they camp outside. This is happening all over Los Angeles. They're camping outside. Well, we have hundreds of beds in there. Yeah, but they don't want to follow your rules. They don't want to stop doing drugs. They don't want to stop doing prostitution. They don't want to stop, what they're doing. They want to do it and have the best of both worlds. And they can get it because you guys are so weak and pathetic. So it's like you need to combine the resources, the mental help, and all this with enforcement. If you allowed me and my friends to sit at a park and say, oh yeah, we're going to just camp out at this park and do drugs and take poops on the slide, you think we would have motivation to stop doing it? It's like they allow it. That's what we do to the homeless. We treat them as if they're a protected class. Oh yeah, destroy the park, destroy this street, just destroy the whole city. I mean, that's fine. We'll hand out needles and we'll put up, things that you won't use. You have to enforce it. Combine helping with enforcement. I'm not going to give away my whole spiel. I want to save it for tomorrow, but it's like a personal trainer. Hey, you're going to get your stuff together. I got people in the comment section that say, Anomaly, I'm a former homeless drug addict. You're 100% right. It was the tough love that helped me get out of it. It was someone that came in my life like a personal trainer and said, you got to get it together. Not, oh, just keep doing it. It's not great. It's not great to live on the street. It's not healthy. It's not sustainable. So a real friend comes in and lays the law down. You can't have a personal trainer that tells you to eat Cheetos all day. What are they thinking? So I have the solution to homelessness. I know that's a bold statement. I don't make that about a lot of complex issues because there's a lot of issues I don't have the solution to, and I don't know the solution. Homelessness, I could solve it. I guarantee you. If they followed my plan, it would be gone and virtually eliminated in San Francisco and LA, but they're doing it all wrong. Crime, I don't think I could stop crime because, I don't think even with more police, evil people will just be good overnight. I think it's a lot harder to stop crime than it is to end homelessness, in my opinion. But, to each their own. I think I could lower crime, but I don't think I could stop it. Homelessness, I think I could, personally. I think I could at least get it down like 99%. Someone said, don't work, don't eat. God, did he say that? He said not to work or eat, but I don't know what you meant, but appreciate you. Thank you, B. Appreciate you. Someone said, my wife always falls for them. Listen, it's nice to help someone out. I've given food before. I've talked to people before. I'm not a cold-hearted person. But at the end of the day, either you make it worse or you make it better. There's tough, complex issues in this world. We're babying the homeless. We're being way too naive and foolish about it. And it's in turn actually hurting them. Tough love is the answer there. Someone said Anomaly for governor. Yeah, I don't want to run for office, but real quick, guys, I'm going to take off real quick. StayInTouchWithMe.com is my free email list. Guys, Monday is going to be the day. I've been working on this for weeks. I'm not the best producer, but I've poured all of my decent talents into this video. Fact-checking the fact-checkers, okay? I have a 35-minute video. It's filled with information. I got an email from the fact checkers. They've told me how they think. They have no problem lying. They have no problem being wrong. Facebook, Instagram, Meta, YouTube. We're going to hold the fact checkers accountable and fact check them and peacefully just demand, accountability. I'm going to end on a positive note. At the end of the day, I think that Rumble, I would love to get in touch with Rumble. I mean, I know they're playing hard to get now. I've talked to people at locals. I want to strike a deal with Rumble. I use Rumble. I'll continue to use it, but I see them striking really smart deals. They got Steve Will Do It from the Nelk Boys, massive. He has a Rumble partnership now. They got Vitaly, this 10 million subscriber YouTuber. I think Rumble is making the right business moves right now. I think they're doing genius things. They're getting not just conservatives, but big YouTubers that have a huge audience to go to Rumble. So I see Rumble taking a huge portion of the Facebook and YouTube market. I think if they continue this, what they're doing over the last 2 months, I think Rumble's really going to challenge social media on a level that I haven't seen anybody do, and they've always fallen short. I think they're making the right move. So in general, I would love to strike a deal with Rumble and just completely stop using YouTube. I just can't do that right now because I don't want to lose my audience, and also, income-wise, I can't make videos unless I'm able to sustain that to a certain level. So hopefully I can strike a deal with Rumble. If not, my videos still go on there. I'm still going to use it, but I would love to take the power away from Facebook or YouTube, and they're not going to care with these BS fact checks and all this nonsense. They're not going to care unless they lose so much power and money that they have to care. And I think it's getting to the point where they've played themselves for long enough, and with the banning of Andrew Tate, with the banning of Steve Will Do It, with the movement of other people, I think that Rumble's making all the right moves, and YouTube and Facebook are making all the wrong moves. So we'll see. But I'm confident that they're blowing it, and I'm confident that my fact-checking the fact-checkers video will have an impact. I mean, I hope you guys watch it on Monday. It's going to be up early on Monday. Try to get ahead of the news cycle, and I'm talking to all my friends in media. All I want is a response. I want YouTube, Facebook, they need to, they need to change this. It's not sustainable what they're doing. So that video's out. StayInTouchWithMe.com free email list. I have a Telegram. Appreciate everybody that watched this. Have a beautiful day, and thank you guys for hanging out.